What's going on, everyone? So, Lakers' biggest needs, at least at a glance thus far, is the 3 and D wing, starting level, like true 3 and D wing, and then a potential backup center. I think, Nick Richards, something along those lines. They could do a lot for a team like the Los Angeles Lakers. The reason I say at a glance is because we don't know for certain. And I do think it's looking more and more likely. Now, look, Lakers are known to do things out of left field, right? How many times did we see, especially even last year, where it was like, Lakers are good, they're standing pat, nothing's going to happen, right? We literally got a report that the Lakers weren't going to do anything, they were going to run it as is, and then like 48 hours later, the Lakers trade for Dorian Finney-Smith. And then we had another report that they're good, happy with Dorian Finney-Smith, everything's good, that they think that this team is enough, and the next thing you know, they trade for Luka Doncic, right? So again, keep in mind that just because it appears right now all is quiet, on the Western Front, things could change rather quickly for the Lakers. And now, obviously, there's the potential of guys just stepping up, right? So you look at Jared Vanderbilt, he could be much improved shooting the three ball this year. You look at Jackson Hayes, who we saw in a pinch, be able to operate as your starter. Right now, he's moving back to a more, in my opinion, a better backup role. I think that he's better suited in a backup role. He can continue to improve. He can continue to get better. And there's the potential that, that the Lakers will be fine in those regards. If Jake LaRavia and Jared Vanderbilt kind of balance themselves out, all of a sudden we could be looking and going like, hey, why make a trade? Like, these two guys are covering it. The Lakers are one of the best teams in all of basketball, right? Now you can kind of be patient and wait for that opportunistic trade. But one trade in particular that I don't really think it will happen or would happen this off season. I think that this would be kind of more something that could happen as we get closer to the trade deadline. And that is a Phoenix Suns trade, but in particular for Dillon Brooks and Nick Richards. Those are two guys that I think kind of solve both of your needs. You could get rather cheap. And I think if Phoenix, to me, it boils down if Phoenix is just not very good. If Phoenix ends up having a bad season or missing the play-in or something like that again, then I could see them kind of going like, hey, let's kind of clear the deck as much as we can. I mean, I think Nick Richards very likely gets traded regardless because they have like 15 centers on their roster. Nick Richards' element of it, I think, could potentially happen as soon as this offseason, right? Whether it's the Lakers or another team. But I could see Phoenix kind of being like, hey, let's go in as is, kind of see how this plays out. Nick Richards can kind of be our starter, more trusted, at least for now, right? But if Malic ends up kind of coming into his zone or whatever, or Mark Williams starts coming into his own, right, for that team, then all of a sudden I could see maybe that shift or transition, or maybe Mark Williams is the starter, Nick Richards is the backup, Malic and these other guys are kind of the back. We'll see how Phoenix kind of plays it out. But I could see if Phoenix isn't very good, as we inch closer to the trade deadline, them being like, hey, let's kind of retool next season, right? We got the center position locked up. We got, Jalen Green and Devin Booker. What do we do from here, right? Because Dillon Brooks is making 21 and some change this million, and he's going to make 19, almost 20 million next year, right? So they could look at it and go like, hey, let's get off of his contract. Let's get off 20 million. Let's get it some assets and kind of restructure, revamp this team. Unless they see Dillon Brooks as a long-term answer at the three, which maybe they do. But there was talks even when they traded for Dillon Brooks that they might look to reroute him and trade him at some point. And they're trying to get off of guys like Grayson Allen and all these other guys. So I do think Phoenix is likely going to kind of continue to make moves going into the season. And I wouldn't be shocked if they try to get off of, again, guys like Grayson Allen and Dillon Brooks and try to just kind of clear salary, which is where the Lakers could come in, because the Lakers have a ton of expiring contracts. So the Lakers, problem is that the Lakers are really good, right? And that's not like a pressing need, then you might not need to make this trade. But even then, depending on what the cost is, it might be worth it. Problem is, would the Lakers give up their first? I don't know if they would. I doubt that they would, right? And would Phoenix be willing to do it without a first, right? Would they be willing to kind of just clear the salary? Because I think Dillon Brooks would, for a contending team, would probably yield the first, because not all firsts are created equal. Right, there's a very big difference between a, unprotected lottery pick from like Charlotte, and a pick from like OKC, where it's like they're going to be, and it's lottery protected just in case. Like, there's different degrees of first. So I could see Dillon Brooks potentially getting yielding something just because of the position that he is such a need and want in this league. I can see Dillon Brooks kind of, adding some value trade wise. Like, I don't think like the package you'd have to send out to get him. Like, I think he's a guy that's realistic for the Lakers to get. Like, I don't look at it as like there's no way you're trading for Dillon Brooks type. It'd take 3-4 for like, no, he's a good player. He's a solid player. Like, I know people are going to bring up like the LeBron thing. Like, oh, like LeBron doesn't care. LeBron played with Lance Stevenson, and Lance Stevenson was like giving him wet willies and blowing in his ear. Like, he's not worried about Dillon Brooks, like, trying to act like a tough guy, right? Like, he's not worried about it. And he bullied him and bodied him. Plus, Lakers could use that kind of toughness. Lakers could use a guy like him that's kind of just, willing to go get in a squabble and, pick up a flagrant or a technical or something. Like that's what I wanted, like, Trey Jamison to be for us last year. Like, give me a guy that's willing to get into the foxhole. Give me a guy that's not, that, is willing to get under someone's skin and talk some mess. Right? Lakers could use that. Give me a dog. You got Marcus Smart. Give me Marcus Smart and Dillon Brooks and let those two just kind of go crazy. I'd be pumped for that. But point is, like, Nick Richards and Dillon Brooks are two guys that I do think make a lot of sense, that if the Lakers are still kind of like, hey, we could make this move, or if the price is reasonable, and it's not a price where you have to sell the farm in order to go and acquire him, then I'd still look to go and make that move for him. Maybe it's a 3-team deal, maybe it's something, but like, to me, I think it really boils down to how is Phoenix, right? Phoenix, you would imagine, are probably going to be pretty bad, but don't be shocked if they're like half decent, right? I have not been more right on a team than Phoenix probably ever. I mean, the moment they made that trade I made video, again, it's all a recording. I was like, people were like, Tyler, you're an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about. I was like, Phoenix is going to be terrible. Like, I don't know why everyone thinks Phoenix is going to be really good. I was in the minority at that point, right? And I was just like, and it aged beautifully, made me look great. But I just, again, it's not as simple as just throwing players together. Now they at least have better balance, right? Still a little awkward with Jalen Green and Devin Booker, but I do think that there's better balance, right? And then you add in, Dillon Brooks, and they got, the center position, they got an excellent center kind of rotation and stuff. So we'll kind of see how that plays out for them in particular. But I do think that they're going to be towards I don't think they're all of a sudden going to be a contender or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't be shocked if they, like, snuck into like the 6th seed or something, if it works out and balances out better. They're deeper, they're more versatile than they were, in my opinion, last year. Better just on both sides of the basketball than they were last, or potentially, let me rephrase, that could potentially be better. I just think that they have more going for them this year than they did the previous years, but I don't think it's enough like high-end talent for them to actually like do anything serious. But if they're like a play-in team or borderline, right, I could see the Phoenix Suns going like, hey, let's kind of get off of some salary here. Let's make some moves, make some trades, and then kind of try to retool this in the offseason, right? Maybe get better balance. Maybe you get a bigger guard that can kind of play off ball but initiate and stuff, right? Like, kind of get creative. Right? Can you find a 6'8" guy that can at least, maybe they go look at a Ben Simmons or something, more seriously. And now they get the salary space and they dump guy. I don't know. That's for Phoenix to figure out, right? This is a Laker channel. But point is, bringing in a guy like Nick Richards, I like somebody that Lakers should have brought in and had around for quite some time now, right? They should have traded for him a couple seasons ago and they didn't. Him, I'm not really sold on him as your starter. I do think he's a guy that, in a pinch can be your starter. But to me, I look at him more as like your primary backup. Like, he's one of the better backups in the league. But like I've talked about before, like it's varying degree. Like it's very minimal. Like the difference between like a Jackson Hayes and his production and a Nick Richards and his production isn't like astronomical. It's not crazy, right? But you look at like starting, you're like the difference between like a Şengün and a Jokic is like night and day, right? Like, so Nick Richards being a back, like, to me, getting another backup center would be kind of more of like the cherry on top rather than the sundae with the works, right? Like, to me, it's kind of more like, by the way, here's a Nick Richards, right? That's why I've talked about like Robert Williams even. Like it's not so much like, oh, going and trading for Robert Williams. It's getting Matisse Thybulle and Robert Williams, right? Like if I'm the Lakers, I'm trying to look at packages like that. Look at packages for like a center that could be your backup and fill some roles, fill some needs, and then also get a legit kind of defensive 3-and-D wing. Right? Same thing with a team like the Phoenix Suns. Go and get a Nick Richards who can fill in and play that role, but also get a 3-and-D wing and a guy in Dillon Brooks that can solve and do some stuff in that regard, right? And it wouldn't be super hard to trade for him salary-wise. So Nick Richards is making $5 million on an expiring contract. Like I mentioned, Dillon Brooks, we'll call it $22 million just to be safe because it's 21 and some change. Remember, Lakers are like right at that threshold. Probably have to get a third team involved. Right, so, Lakers maybe have to give up a second or a pick swap or something like that to make it work or make it happen. But essentially, you'd need to get to about $27 million in salary to get Dillon Brooks as well as Nick Richards, which is still less than than what you need to get to for at Andrew Wiggins. So, that's something like if you can't do a Wiggins trade or something, maybe you look to pivot and go do, maybe you even are trading Rui. I mean, I try to keep Rui, but if you could do like Rui, Dalton Connect, and Gabe Vincent, right, for Nick Richards and Dillon Brooks, I wouldn't hate that. Like I said, maybe get a third team involved that, maybe they take Dalton Connect or something just to take them and facilitate the trade. Point is, you can make it happen. And then both guys are young enough to be long-term pieces. I mean, Nick Richards, 27. He'll be 28 in November, towards the end of November, so about a month into the season. Big question, though, with Nick Richards is how much does he want? Because I imagine he's not going to want $5 million a year again. So, is he fine taking, 12 to maybe 15 range? Or is he looking for 20, 25 million? I don't think he would get that regardless, but it's something to keep in mind. If you do trade for him, he could just leave you in the offseason and now you're stuck with nothing, right? So, or what if a team offers him a starting spot where he's not going to be the starter for the Lakers, DeAndre Ayton's going to be, right? But Nick Richards would make some sense, especially alongside Luka Doncic. So, again, maybe you kind of pull something off with him if he's willing to stay. And then Dillon Brooks, same thing. Dillon Brooks is still young enough to where he could be a piece long-term. Right? He's currently on the right side of 30. He'll be 30 years old in January. So basically midway through the season, but still young enough to be a piece long-term. Also, his contract lines up with the 2027, right? So that's something to kind of keep in mind too, which the Lakers want to keep that cap preservation for 2027. Dillon Brooks is a guy that would keep that. And at that point would only be, would be going into being 32 at that point. So you could even sign him to another deal to where he could be, a rotation piece or a starter or something like that. Maybe getting him on a reasonable contract, especially if he's on a team like the Lakers. But, you look at Dillon Brooks, like Dillon Brooks is the guy, is kind of like the prize in my opinion, right? That's the guy that the Lakers, I think, need more. Nick Richards would kind of just be more icing on the cake in my opinion. But you look at Dillon Brooks, plays last few games, 75 games, 72 games, 73 games, right? Best ability is availability. But last year, 75 games, 32 minutes per game, 12 field goal attempts, shot 43% from the floor. 3-point range, shot 39.7% on 6.3 attempts. So again, you talk about a guy, he's career 35.5% 3-point shooter, but shot nearly 40% on 6 attempts. Talk about volume, shooting, all of that. But 2-point range on 46.5%, 5.7 attempts, EFG of 53.3%. Free throw percentage was 81.8%. From the rebounds, 3.7 rebounds, so basically 4 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, half a block, and 14 points per game. So a guy that gives you some production. But getting into Nick Richards and his stats, right, because again, he's a guy that, you're looking to kind of come in and play in that backup role. But getting into Nick Richards and his stats, he's a guy that in 22 minutes, 22.7 minutes per game with Phoenix. I guess we can go over both. So 22.7 minutes with Phoenix, 36 games played at 34 games started. He got 6.5 field goal attempts, shot 60.5% from the floor. Doesn't take any threes, not a floor spacing big man. 2-point range, 60.8% on 6.4 attempts. EFG, same thing. Free throw shooting, 82.2% on 2 attempts last year for Phoenix, which is really good. He is a career 74% guy on 2.2 attempts, so a good free throw shooter. Last year, rebounds, grabbed 8.6 rebounds. He is a career 6 rebound a game guy. An assist, half a steal, a full block, and 9.5 points per game. He's a career 7 and 6 guy. So again, good role player guy off the bench. If you look overall between Charlotte and Phoenix, he averaged 22 minutes per game, started in 43 out of 57 games, 6.1 attempts overall, shot 59.1% from the floor. Again, doesn't spread the floor. 2-point range, same thing, 59.4% on 6.1 attempts, EFG of 59.1%. Free throw shooting, 74.4% on 2.8 attempts. He actually was getting to the foul line 4.1 times per game on average with the Charlotte Hornets, which is that's good. Averaged 8.2 rebounds, an assist, half a steal, a full block, and 9.3 points per game. Diving into Nick Richards and his per 36. Per 36 doesn't tell you everything, but kind of gives you an idea. With Phoenix, he was 15, 14, 1 assist, half a steal, 1.5 blocks. Overall on the season was 15, 13 and a half, 1.5 assists, half a steal, and 1.6 blocks. He was actually 2 blocks a game with the Charlotte Hornets. So again, if you could get and land some guys like that, I love it. Bring in Dillon Brooks, bring in a Nick Richards. Again, try to find those types of trades where you can land multiple, like a wing and a center. It's kind of what I'd look at. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass the question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. Helps me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.